Good afternoon, everyone. The time is now 2 p.m. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is the State Expedited Accusations calendar. This calendar is for those individuals who've been recently arrested, but the cases have already been formally accused and bound over to state court. All defendants, you have an absolute right to remain silent. Anything you say regarding the facts of your case can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney today. Want to ask if you understand your rights. Those are the rights to which I am referring. All participants, this is being broadcast over the internet. It's also being recorded. That means any member of the public can log on and watch this particular proceeding. All right, I see the announcement from ASG Falk, who's requesting that position 12 go at the end. Are there any other requests for breakouts? We'd like to do all the breakouts at the end. Or have all members of the Public Defender's Office had the opportunity to interview their clients? All right, seems like that's the case. All right, who do we have at courtroom 2?
Judge, this is going to be position 1, Mr. Anderson.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Anderson. Your case is 22 CR 008192A. In this case, you're charged with 1 count of criminal trespass with the offense date of September the 8th of 2022. Do you understand your rights?
Yeah.
All right. And as a reminder, I should have said this earlier, all those who receive a surety or a cash bond today will be reset to the state all-purpose calendar on December the 22nd. Those who receive a signature bond will be reset per the notice. Ms. Harrison, good afternoon. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Can I have his history, please?
8 cycles, 1 juvenile arrest within those 8 cycles. Last arrest, July of 2021 for driving without a valid license in Fulton County. That was a conviction. Record also indicated an open case pending in Fulton County for battery, family violence, cruelty to children, 3rd degree. Case number is 20 CR 00164A. That case is in dormant bench warrant status. Additional open case for criminal trespass, family violence, 20 CR 000205A.
All right. That's sufficient. Thank you, Ms. Harrison. All right, Ms. Salette, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. On December 8th, 2022, Officer McGow with the Atlanta Police Department was dispatched to 3010 Middleton Road, Northwest Apartment 229. Upon arrival, officer made contact with the defendant who was sitting inside his vehicle. The defendant stated that he was sitting in his vehicle he was sitting in the vehicle because his unborn child's mother, the victim in this case, lived close by in an apartment. The defendant called Miss Williams, the victim in this case. I'm sorry, her name is Taylor Williams. The defendant called her on his cell phone and asked her to come outside. Miss Williams stated to officers that she asked the defendant not to come back to her home anymore. Ms. Williams also stated that she contacted the police on numerous occasions about the defendant coming back to her home, but he keeps on coming back. Ms. Williams stated that she attempted to file a TPO at the Fulton County Courthouse, but has not yet completed that process. Ms. Williams showed Officer McGow text messages where she stated to the defendant not to come to her house anymore. As stated by pretrial, he does have those 2 open 2019 family violence cases that are in bench warrant status. He also has a dead docketed aggravated assault and armed robbery arrest from 2014 due to the defendant's family violence history and this victim stating that she no longer wants him coming back to her residence. The state's recommendation at this time is a $5,000 surety bond, no contact with the victim, stay away from the incident location, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. And the state would argue that he poses a risk of not appearing for court in the future and poses a risk of reoffending as well.
All right, thank you. I'm going to sound for Ms. Williams. Ms. Taylor Williams, if you're on the Zoom conference and wish to be heard, this is your opportunity to speak. All right, hearing none. Mr. White, do you represent this defendant? If you're speaking, you're muted.
Sorry, Judge, haven't done this video court in a while.
All right, no problem. Is this your client?
It is, Judge.
All
He
right,
is.
please give me your recommendation.
I guess I'm a little bit confused. He was stopped near an apartment that is occupied by his former girlfriend. Is that correct?
That sounds like the state's allegation to me.
Well, it sounds like that's a difficult criminal trespass. He wasn't at her apartment. He's in his car. Based on those facts alone, we'd ask for a signature bond. As far as the one of the open cases that is in bench warrant status, the address that was sent, I pulled it up in Odyssey. The address where his notice was sent to was returned because they did not include his apartment number. So he did not receive notice on that. So we don't think that he is likely to miss court. And so we're asking that he be allowed to sign his own bond. He is currently employed. He has a good job. He won't qualify for the public defender services going forward, and does have another child that he cares for. So we're asking him to be allowed to sign his own bond so he can get back to his job to provide for his children.
Ms. Select, let's clarify the stay away address. Is that the victim's address or where he was found that night?
That is the victim's address, Your Honor. And also just to clarify, officers were dispatched to a dispute at that location. And so, Your Honor, the state would argue that the dispute was between the defendant and the victim. And when officers arrived, the defendant was in his vehicle.
Okay. At this time, defendant will receive a $1,500 surety bond. He is to stay away from the address on Middleton Road and have no contact with the alleged victim. He can arrange transport of the child if the child is the child currently born or is she still pregnant is the allegation?
She's still pregnant.
She's still
Okay.
pregnant, Your Honor.
Okay, so have no contact with the victim as a condition of this bond. The third party transport could be arranged at a later point if necessary. And he is to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons and stay away from the victim's address on Middleton Road. Is there anything further?
Nothing from the defense, Judge.
All right, best of luck to you, Mr. Anderson. All right, who do we have next?
Position 6, they also have their parents in the gallery.
Okay, good afternoon. Are you Austin Malone?
Yes.
Your case is 22 CR 008195H. You're charged with theft by taking in this case with the offense date of August the 21st. Do you understand your rights?
Yes.
You do? Speak clearly. Okay. Ms. Harrison, please proceed.
Judge, he has no prior arrest. He did appear in felony first appearance today under case 22 CP 214542 for carrying a weapon within school zone and a battery charge.
Okay.
Let's see.
Do you know what bond he
Does meet the
received?
criteria.
this morning?
Yes, his bond was, I believe it was a split bond, 5,000 with UJR jail.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Ms. Select?
Yes, Your Honor. On August 21st, 2022, Officer Giles responded to 7900 Senoa Road in Fairburn. That's a Bojangles location in reference to a stolen money call. Upon arrival, Officer Giles met with the complainant witness, Miss India Fuller, inside the business. She stated that around 11 a.m. on that day, she observed the defendant take money from the front cash register and go out the back door. She stated that she texted the defendant in reference to the money, and he stated that he would bring the money back. And she never heard back from him about the money. So she called the police at that time. So a warrant was taken out. The defendant is 17 years old and already has two separate cases in arrest. At this time, the state would be asking for, well, we would be consenting to a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial and a stay away from the incident location at Bojangles, 7900 Senoa Road, Fairburn. No contact with the witness in this case, Miss India India Fuller, Fuller, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right, thank you. Mr. White?
Your Honor, we would be in agreement with a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial. Briefly, Mr. Malone's parents are here. As far as the felony case that the state mentioned, that was involving some type of water pistol. Like, I didn't exactly understand exactly what it was, but it wasn't a firearm. I don't have any paperwork on the case that we're addressing. I've only got the paperwork for the other charge. So, but we would agree to a $4,000 SOP through the jail. I mean, through.
We will accept the state's offer at this time. I mean, the state's recommendation at this time. Defendant will receive a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial services. He's to have no contact with the alleged victim, last name Fuller, and stay away from that Bojangles location. He is further to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, including the subject water pistol, whatever may have been involved in that first case. Is there anything else from either party?
Judge, I'm sorry, you went a little fast.
I'm sorry,
What were the
4,000.
conditions?
For the conditions, no contact with the victim, stay away from that Bojangles restaurant, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons.
Also, when he went to first appearance, did his mom do a co-signer? Does anyone?
I don't, if he got UJR jail, would he have?
I'm sorry, it was pretrial. He received pretrial. I just double checked. He
Okay,
received
so,
pretrial level 1.
okay, so I'd like to do the
The split
same.
was because you can't pretrial don't take weapons on first appearance for felony.
Okay,
So
understood. So his mother needs to co-sign?
if she didn't already do one in first appearance, does anyone know?
Ma'am,
Let's just indicate that she needs to do it again, just to be
Yeah.
sure. She did? Let's say that his mother has to serve as a co-signer. What is his mother's name, Mr. White? Please unmute. You're muted.
Judge, I'm not certain.
Okay, ma'am, she's in the gallery. What is your name?
Campbell.
Okay, his mother's name is Jada Campbell. Is it common spelling, Jada?
Brenda.
Oh, Brenda. I'm sorry, it's hard to hear. Brenda Campbell. Okay, Ms. Harrison, will you need anything else?
What about a phone number?
Is there a phone number? Can someone at Courtroom 2 help her put a number in the chat to Ms. Harrison so it's not on the record? All right, let's get, or Mr. White, maybe, I don't know. I would prefer her to not to read the phone number on Zoom if we could help it.
Oh, I'm sorry. So his attorney is working on a waiver appearance. Oh, okay, no, that's not me. I'm sorry.
That's for something unrelated.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
number's in the chat, Judge.
Thank you, wonderful. All right, I believe that's gonna conclude Mr. Malone's case. Is there anything further from the state defense or Ms. Harrison?
Nothing
No,
from the
Judge.
state.
Now from
All right.
the defense, Judge.
All right, best of luck to you, Mr. Malone.
Position 2, Bryant.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Bryant. Your case number is 22 CR 008193J. In this case, you're charged with failure to obey signs and control devices, fraudulent driver's license, false statement and application, driving while license suspended or revoked, and fleeing, attempting to elude an officer, and reckless driving with the offense date of November the 26th of 2022. Do you understand your rights?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Harrison, may I have that history, please?
11 cycles with 1 arrest in Indiana. Last arrest December 7th of this year out of Carroll County for driving under the influence. No disposition listed on that arrest. Record does indicate an open probation in Douglas County for burglary, 17 CR 00760. sentenced to October of 2018, 1 year and 5 months confinement, 8 years, 7 months probation. Additional open probation in Carroll County for giving false name to law enforcement officers. 20M00517, sentenced July of 2022, 12 months probation.
All right.
Necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. All right, Ms. Salette.
Yes, Your Honor. On November 26, 2022, Officer Spencer was stopped at Humphreys Road and Ralph David Abernathy in Atlanta and witnessed the defendant swerve around a vehicle stopped at a red light, and then that the defendant drove through that red light. Officer Spencer attempted to pull the vehicle over, but the defendant drove an additional block and stopped near 670 McDaniel Street. Officer Spencer asked the driver for his license, and that's when the officer noticed the front passenger, Lamont Bryant, pass the defendant his license. The defendant then presented that license to the officer as his own. And at that time, Officer Spencer called in additional units. Officers asked the defendant and Lamont Bryant to step out of the vehicle. Lamont Bryant refused to, and officers had to pull Lamont Bryant out of the vehicle as he was resisting arrest. Officers were eventually able to handcuff the passenger, Lamont Bryant. And at that time, the defendant, in this case, DeAndre Bryant, fled in the vehicle and sped away from the scene. The officers noted that he nearly ran over the officer's feet. As the defendant was driving off, the back passenger, Quazavius Bryant, jumped out of the back of the vehicle. After Quazavius received medical attention, he gave officers the defendant's identifying information. Due to the defendant fleeing on that day, he was not arrested. As you heard from pretrial services, Your Honor, this defendant is on felony probation for burglary and has been arrested for a probation violation. He's been arrested for FTA. All of those arrests from this year, even after this incident occurred on November 26th, he was arrested for DUI on December 7th of this year out of Carroll County. I also show, and I'm not sure if pretrial said this one or not, I can't recall, I saw a 2022 battery family violence conviction as well. So the state would argue that based on his history that he does run the risk of reoffending again in the future while out on bond, Your Honor. And he does pose a risk and danger to the community and persons as well, based on his violent history, based on his DUI arrest and driving history as well. So at this time, the state would be requesting a $15,000 surety bond, $5,000 for the fleeing charge, $5,000 for the reckless charge, $3,000 for the driving while license suspended, and $1,000 on each additional charge. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. No contact with the witnesses in this case, Lamont Bryant and Quazavius Bryant. And Your Honor, we would ask that you order him to not drive as well. It's clear that his license is suspended and he's not supposed to be driving. So he has not been following the requirements of DDS. So we would ask that you implementing in your order as well that he not drive. Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My client is
You.
29 years old. He is a native of Atlanta. He tells me that he's currently living with his grandmother. He does work, Your Honor, but it is sporadic. He works for a temp agency, so he's not always employed. The two co-defendants are relatives of his, Your Honor, and my understanding is that they live at the same place. So to say that he cannot have any further contact with them may prove to be something that would be a real hardship for him, Your Honor, because I believe that they share the same household. I do understand that my client does have some history and some recent outstanding matters, Your Honor, but he certainly is not in a position to post a bond of $15,000. And I believe that that bond is excessive. So I would ask the court to set a reasonable bond for him, one that would allow him to actually make bond and get out of jail so he can continue to work and, of course, to be able to cooperate with counsel in defending himself against these allegations, as he is presumed innocent, Your Honor. Nothing further.
All right, defendant is going to receive an $8,000 split bond broken down as follows. On the failure to obey signs, it'll be $1,000 signature through the jail. On the fraudulent license, it'll be $1,000 signature through the jail. On the, the false statements in an application, that's $1,000 signature through the jail. On the driving while license suspended or revoked, it'll be $1,000 surety bond. On the fleeing or attempting to elude, that is a $2,000 surety bond. And on the reckless driving, that's a $2,000 surety bond. Checking my math. That should be the 8,000 split, and defendant is not to drive as a condition of this bond at all. And I won't order the no contact, but the no driving will definitely apply. All right, is there anything further?
Yes, Your Honor, if I may, I just want to put on for the record that the state was requesting the no contact due to the relationship, them pretty much being co-defendants in this case, that there may be some influence. The defendant may try to influence these witnesses, but I understand the discretion of the court. I just wanted to put that on the record. Yeah.
All right, duly noted. Best of luck to you, sir. Bond was set as follows. Ms. Campion, did you get that?
Judge, the fraudulent driver's license and the false statements. and
That's the same
application is just
charge?
one charge, yes.
That's the same charge. Okay, so then that'll be 1,000 signature through the jail for that one.
Okay.
All right,
And-
I was wondering if there was 5 or 6 charges. It was unclear from my calendar.
And the driving while license suspended is $1,000 good bond.
Yes,
And the last 2 charges will be a $2,000 good bond each, right?
yes.
Okay.
All right, best of luck to you, Mr. Bryant. Who do we have next?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Position 4, Hughes. Come on, Mr. Hughes.
All right, Mr. Hughes, in this case, 22 CR 0081994J, you're charged with criminal trespass with the offense date of December the 8th. Do you understand your rights? You do?
She's talking to you, Hughes.
You understand your rights?
I don't know who it
Keep
is.
your mask up for me, Hughes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Harrison. If you're speaking,
Sorry,
okay.
23 cycles, last arrest, February of 2020 for criminal trespass in Fulton County. That was a conviction. He has a 2019 disorderly conduct, 2018 battery, and a 1994 simple battery. Nothing further, Judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Salette?
Yes, Your Honor. On December 8th at around 2:25 a.m., the defendant did knowingly trespass at the North Avenue MARTA station located at 641 West Peachtree Street in Atlanta. While the station was closed, the defendant refused to leave after being asked by Officer Cooper multiple times. At this time, the state would be recommending a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial if possible. Stay away from the MARTA, any and all MARTA, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right, thank you, Mr. White.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Hughes is homeless. That is the reason that he was at the train station. Mr. Hughes has asked for a good bond in this case, Judge. You heard me correctly.
I'm assuming you're gonna give me some insight as to why.
Frankly, he wants to stay in jail.
Okay. What's
He
your
has
position
mental
about
health issues, and he thinks that he can get his medication at the jail, Judge.
Oh,
Your Honor, the state was going to ask, is Mr. White, do you perceive this may be an MHET issue
I was gonna suggest maybe BHET first
or that?
and start there.
Just something ending with an ET, Your Honor.
I agree. I was waiting for Mr. White to fill in that part.
It's kind of delicate and I really.
I understand. Okay.
Didn't have to go with it, but
What we're gonna do is we're gonna give him $1,000 surety bond, and I'm gonna order a BHET, which means that I'm asking that a social worker make their way to meet with defendant within, I guess, a reasonable period to ascertain any outstanding issues that might be going on. All right.
we'd be agreeable with that, Judge. It sounds perfect.
All right. Best of luck to you, Mr. Hughes. That will conclude your case.
Your Honor, will that bond order include the stay away as well?
It will not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
God, Hughes, get up.
Hey, wait a minute, Jana, am I speaking to Jana, please?
Keep your mask up, Hughes.
You have a right to remain silent. I don't want you to say something that will affect Mr. White's ability to represent you, but I will hear what if you have a very limited question.
Yes, ma'am. How y'all doing now? For one thing, I got to catch the model train to go to emergency care.
Oh, I didn't ban you from MARTA, so
Okay.
that I didn't add that, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Best of luck to you, Mr. Hughes. If that was your only question, otherwise, please contact Mr. White.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Best of luck to you. Who do we have next?
Position 5, Jackson.
That was a new one, Mr. White. All right, Mr. Jackson, your case is 22 CR 00819 In this case, you're charged with simple assault family violence with the offense date of December the 8th. Do you understand your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Harrison, can I have that history, please?
Judge, this is his first arrest. He is recommended for UJR release through the jail. Nothing
Okay.
further.
Oh, through the jail, not pretrial.
Not pretrial.
Okay. Also a new one. All right, can we, is the victim on the line? I am gonna go to you, Ms. Salette, but I'm curious, is the victim, who is the alleged victim in this case, Ms. Salette?
It is, one moment, Your Honor. Aaron Campbell,
Okay,
ERIN.
so perhaps that person's there. Okay, I just had a question for myself. Ms. Salette, go ahead and please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. On December 8th, 2022, Officer Mack was dispatched to 3022 Dearborn Court. Upon arrival, officers spoke with the victim, Ms. Erin Campbell, and she informed Officer Mack that her husband, the defendant, had thrown things in the house and was acting belligerent. Officer Mack made contact with the defendant, and he began to get aggressive with the officer. And the officer ended up going inside the home and looking around and noticed that the bedrooms were disheveled. He noticed that a TV had been broken, and the defendant admitted that he and the victim had gotten into a verbal dispute and nothing else happened. After Officer Mack explained to Ms. Campbell that at this time they wouldn't be able to remove the defendant from the home, but that they would do a report. While the defendant walked away to go get his ID, Ms. Campbell whispered to Officer Mack that the defendant had picked up a dresser and threatened to throw it at her, and that she felt unsafe with him staying there for the night. And at that time, he was charged with simple assault, family violence, and placed under arrest. Although the defendant does not have any history, arrest history at this time, Your Honor, due to the nature of the allegations, this being a family violence incident, and what we know about family violence, our office has also had contact with the victim, and based on our contact, we do believe that she is fearful of him and that she does not want him back in the home. The state would be requesting a $4,000 surety bond, no contact with the victim, stay away from the incident location, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. They do not share any children, Your Honor.
All right, I'm gonna sound for Ms. Campbell. Ms. Campbell, if you're on the Zoom conference and wish to be heard, this is your opportunity to speak. I would just need you to turn your camera on. All right, I don't see Ms. Campbell, so we'll go to Mr. White.
Yes, Judge. Mr. Jackson is currently employed. He does have a solid job. He's been in Atlanta for 3 years. It's his first ever arrest. So obviously he has no probation violations or missed court appearances. We asked that he be allowed to sign his own bond. This is only a simple assault. There was no violence actually done, Judge. And we think that only fair that he be allowed to sign his own bond.
All right. At this time, defendant will receive a $7,000 signature bond through the jail. He is to have no contact in this case with the alleged victim, last name Campbell, and he must stay away from the address on Dearborn Court. He can return one time with a member of law enforcement to get any items, and he is to have no weapons, drugs, or alcohol as a condition. Is there anything further?
Nothing for the defense, Judge.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
All right, best of luck to you, sir. Who do we have next?
Position 7, Nordone.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Nordone. Your case number is 22 CR 0081960. In this case, you're charged with driving under the influence of alcohol, less safe, operating without lights, and erratic lane change, each with the offense date of December the 8th. Do you understand you're right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Harrison,
I'm sorry, Judge, what position?
7.
One moment. First arrest, Judge. He
All right.
has no prior history. He also recommended for UJR through the jail.
All right, thank you. Ms. Salette?
Yes, Your Honor. On December 8th, 2022, around 2:30 a.m., Officer Mealy was traveling northbound on Highway 9, approaching the intersection of Manswell Road and Roswell. Officer Mealy observed a blue Honda traveling in the same direction with its headlights not activated and its tail lights were also off. Officer Mealy positioned himself behind the vehicle to initiate a stop, and he noticed the defendant driving at a very low rate of speed and failing to maintain its lane multiple times. Once Officer Mealy was able to complete the stop, he made contact with the defendant, who was the driver. Officer Mealy immediately observed a strong odor of alcoholic beverage emitting from the defendant's person. He also observed the defendant to have bloodshot and watery eyes. The defendant stated that he had 3 IPA beers before leaving his brother's residence. And while speaking with officers, the defendant displayed slow, inconsistent speech and failed multiple times to maintain concentration while speaking with officers. The defendant also displayed swaying movements while standing up and had trouble maintaining his balance. While sitting in the vehicle, officers observed the defendant reach into the middle console and grab a bottle of mouthwash and place it in his lap. Officers asked the defendant if he would like to complete field sobriety tests, and he refused to complete those field sobriety tests and asked if he could park his car and whether his brother could pick him up. Based on all of the officers' observations, the officers did decide to arrest him for DUI. They did read implied consent, and he refused to any breathalyzer or blood testing or anything like that. During the inventory of the defendant's vehicle, 2 empty bottles of Jägermeister were found, an empty 12-ounce can of Miller Lite, and an empty 2 empty 12-ounce cans of Miller Lights were found inside the vehicle as well. Due to the seriousness of these driving charges and for the safety of the community and the roadways of Fulton County, the state would be asking for a $7,000 surety bond in total, $5,000 on the DUI charge, $1,000 on each additional charge, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond, and no driving, as I said, due to the seriousness of these driving allegations. I did see in his traffic history a 2012 failure to yield right-of-way conviction. Nothing further from the state at this time.
All right, thank you. Mr. White?
Judge, we're asking Mr. Nordone be allowed to sign his own bond. He's 31 years old, never been arrested before. So one traffic violation in all of that time is not a terrible record. Additionally, there are no fields and no breath tests in this case. Likelihood of conviction is relatively low. So again, first, he does have a good job, and we're asking he be allowed to sign his own bond to get back to his job.
All right. At this time, defendant will receive a $4,000 split bond, $2,000 on the DUI, and $2,000 surety. I apologize, and $1,000 on each remaining charge as signature bonds to the jail. He's not to drive without a valid license issued by the Georgia DDS, and he's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Is there anything further?
Nothing from the state judge. I mean, from the defense judge.
Nothing from the state.
All right, best of luck to you, Mr. Nordone. Who do we have next?
Position 8, Pierce.
All right, good afternoon. Your case number is 22 CR 008191G. In this case, the charge with DUI, less safe, and possession of an open container with the offense date of December the 8th. Do you understand your rights?
Yes.
Ms. Harrison?
What position?
8.
Two cycles. Last arrest was March of 2013 for DUI under the influence in Gwinnett County. That was a conviction.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Duncan, please proceed.
In addition, Your Honor, there is a 99 DUI and driving while license suspended out of DeKalb County arrest. The disposition was time expired. In this instance, Your Honor, did occur yesterday in the area of Medlock Bridge Road, specifically in the parking lot of the pediatric dentistry of Johns Creek. The defendant was dropping his minor daughter off at the dentist. Citizens in the area saw the defendant drinking what they believed to be a can of alcoholic beverage while dropping his daughter off. Police were called. They made contact with the suspected vehicle and the defendant in this case. They conducted field sobriety at the time of contacting the defendant in this case. He showed clues on the HDN, the one leg stand, and the walk and turn of impairment, Your Honor. In addition to that, officers did locate a tall can of Budweiser that was 1/3 full in the passenger compartment. In addition to that, the defendant did in fact have bloodshot, watery eyes, and they said that he had some trouble standing in position and seemed confused, and they could smell the odor of alcoholic beverage coming from the defendant's person. Because of this, they read implied consent to the defendant and asked for a chemical test of blood. And then I believe at that point, the defendant refused, based on the officer's training and experience with these type of events, they did believe that the defendant was under the influence such that it was unsafe for such persons to drive. The minor child was picked up and taken back to their residence in Norcross, Georgia. In addition to the 3 DUIs on this defendant's criminal record, he does have an extensive driving history that includes several citations and suspensions for DUIs and failure to appear and failure to obey traffic control devices, but mostly failure to appear. So we do have a concern about a severe risk of reoffense in this case. We do have some concern that this defendant is a danger to himself and others on the roadway, and not to mention he was putting his child in danger while driving intoxicated and taking her to this dentist appointment. We're thankful for the citizens of Fulton County that were able to make contact with the officers to make contact with this defendant. Because of this defendant's extensive history with driving while impaired and the lengthy driving history, the state is going to be requesting a $7,500 surety on the DUI and a $2,500 surety on the open container, making for a total of a $10,000 surety, if my math is correct. No alcohol, drugs, and weapons, no further violations of Georgia law, and ADET, and no driving.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Pierce is, Your Honor, 59 years old, and he has been here in Georgia almost all his life. He is currently married with, I believe he has 3 children, and one of them is 14 years old, and he's still paying for his minor child. And Your Honor, he has been disabled ever since probably about more than a couple of years because of his heart conditions, and he has a lupus, and he's got a lot of serious medical conditions that he really needs to get out of the jail and take care of himself. Before that, he was working as an outdoor construction company owner, and yet he has not been able to work about 1.5 years. And his wife, even though who works, their financial situation is very tight since he has not making any income lately. So we would like to request the signature surety bond to be reduced significantly, Your Honor. He was indeed recommended for unsecured judicial relief because all those DUI charges were very remote from 2013, almost 9 or 10 years ago. We would like to request signature on bond, and yet if it is not, if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, definitely split bond, DUI, $1,000 good bond, and possession of open alcohol container to be a signature on bond through jail. Thanks, Your Honor.
Your
All
Honor,
right.
for the record, there's a $5,000 preset surety bond in this case.
All right, thank you. At this time, defendant will receive a $5,000 surety bond, total be $3,000, count 1, $2,000, count 2, for the total of the $5,000 surety. He's not to drive without a valid license issued by the Georgia DDS, and he's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Is there anything further?
Nothing further from the state.
Nothing
All
further
right.
from defense.
Best of luck to you, Mr. Pierce. Who do we have next?
Nine, Reeves.
All right, good
Milton,
afternoon.
you wanted to go next, Ms. Milton?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
All right, who do we have at South Annex?
Position 11, Ms. Salter.
And has Ms. Salter heard her right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Salter, your case is 22 CR 008200Y. In this case, you're charged with battery and cruelty to children in the 3rd degree with the offense dated December the 7th. Do you understand your rights? Can she be unmuted just to answer that?
Ms. Milton, unmute your mic.
Unmute, please, just so she can tell me she understands her rights.
Oh, boy. Just give a thumbs
Yes.
up.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Ms. Harrison?
Kevin Cycles, last arrest, June of this year for criminal damage to property in the 1st degree in Henry County. No disposition listed on that arrest. Record indicates a 2019 trespass and obstruction of law enforcement officers in Cobb County, and 2 prior misdemeanor given false name to police officers in Henry County. She is not recommended for UJR, Judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Yes, Your Honor. In this incident, officers were dispatched to the Travelodge Hotel located at 2471 Old National Parkway in reference to a noise violation. Officers arrived on scene. They heard about a commotion going on, and they made entry into the suspected unit of the noise violation. At that time, there were several people in the room. The officer came in, and in this case, it's indicated that there was a physical altercation between her and the victim in this case, Miss Kiana Martin. That's Keona. last name Martin, common spelling. It was indicated by Ms. Martin that the defendant punched her in an attempt to defend herself. She punched Ms. Salter back. The facts you indicate that Ms. Martin did let the defendant in this case know that she did not want to fight because she had her child, minor AM, with her present in that unit as well. And it was told to officers that the defendant stated she didn't care if her child was with her. She still was going to fight her. Officers notated that the victim in this case did have visible bruising and scratches on her face as a result of the attack by the defendant in this case. Given this defendant's history and the offenses alleged, Your Honor, we do also have some concern about this defendant's likelihood to respond positively to the legal process. This defendant has several recent probation violations as well as additional charges. So the state is going to be requesting a $4,000 surety bond in this case on count 1 of battery and a $500 surety on the second count of cruelty to children and the third. We're going to ask that the defendant have no further contact with either of the victims in this case and stay away from that travel lodge, hotel, and any other place where the victims might be or reside. 1-day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law.
And can I have the last names of the victims again? I'm sorry, Ms. Duncan.
Martin, and that's common spelling.
All right, it's Ms. I see someone's last name Martin. Ms. Martin, if you'd like to make a statement at this time, this is your opportunity to do so. However, you are not required. All right, hearing none for now. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Salter is 21 years old, Your Honor, and she has been here in Georgia for all her life, and she does not have any children. She's a single. She has an older sister. In this case, her older sister was attacked by this alleged victim complaining witness, Miss Martin. She used a gun to threaten her older sister, who is actually pregnant and also who has a serious cancer. She is 6 months pregnant and she's very sick. And my client was actually defending her sister and herself against the alleged victim, Miss Martin, who had a gun with her. When the police came, she hid the gun. The story was like not fully disclosed. It was only her side. My client is only 80 pounds, Your Honor. And then police actually put her face down to the concrete. He is really big police officer. And right now, my client is complaining that her arm may have been dislocated. She's very tiny. It doesn't have to be that aggressive to arrest her, even though she was arrested. We would like to request for a signature on bond because I believe that this is purely self-defense against her and her sister, who was very close to her. And also, she does not want to lose her job as a manager at Wingstop. She has an 11th degree, 11th grade high school education, and she's working on at Atlanta Tech College for GED. She has 4 more credits to finish, and we do not want her to be locked up for a $4,000 surety bond, which she will not be able to pay for. And I'm afraid that she does not have anybody else who will bail her out. So instead of crushing her future by putting her into the jail for defending her sister and herself, I think that she should get a signature on bond and get out of the jail as soon as she can, so she can continue her work. Thanks.
Clarify the record very briefly.
Very briefly.
It was indicated by the facts that the incidents alleged by PD Kim had happened at another date and time, and that the defendant in this case came to that hotel as a result of those allegations, but she informed the defendant that no such thing had actually happened, and that she asked her to not, that she didn't want to fight, but the defendant proceeded to attack her anyway.
Okay, at this time, defendant will receive a $2,500 surety bond, 2,000 on the battery, 500 on the cruelty. She's had to have no contact with any of the alleged victims in this case, and she's to stay away from the address on Old National Highway, have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Is there anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, best of luck to you, Ms. Salter. Does that conclude the business at the South Annex?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
You
All
too.
right. And remind me who we had at courtroom 2.
Position 9, Reeves.
Okay, Mr. Reeves, in this case, you're charged with possession of marijuana less than an ounce and 4 counts of willful obstruction and 1 count of certain acts of certain prohibited acts at a rail station. You understand your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Harrison, can I have his history, please?
I'm so sorry, Judge. What
Position 9. Yes.
Thank 33 cycles. Last arrest was December 8th for, I'm sorry, wait 1 moment. It's the wrong last arrest. Last arrest is May of 2022 for a probation violation. Underlying charge is not indicated. Record reflects an open case pending in Fulton County for driving, fleeing, or attempting to elude, interference with government property, driving while license suspended or revoked, driving expired or no license plate or decal, 2 counts of reckless conduct and obstruction of law enforcement officer, hit and run, and leaving the scene of an accident. That is 22 SC 182610. Open probation in Fulton County for aggravated assault, family violence. 15 SC 135255. Sentenced April of 2016 with 15 years probation. Additional open probation for Forsyth County, theft by receiving stolen property, possession or transport of firearm by convicted felon or first offender, 19 CR 03561. The 22 SC case is in judicial hold. Nothing further, Judge.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. All right, Ms. Duncan.
I did also see in my research that the defendant is currently wanted out of Cumming for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. In this instance, the defendant was at the East Point MARTA station. Officers in plain clothes detail noticed him rolling what they suspected to be marijuana in a brown paper when they announced themselves as MARTA police and attempted to get him to stop and place him in handcuffs. He refused and started resisting arrest. Other officers were called. He continued to resist arrest and the lawful commands of Officer Bailey and Officer Peters and Officer Point de Jour of the MARTA Police Department at that time. Eventually, they were able to subdue the defendant and take him into custody. We have some concern about the risk of reoffense in this case. This defendant has an extensive criminal history as well as open cases. We do have some concern that this defendant is a flight risk. There is a FTA from 2022, and we do have concern that this defendant does not have a likelihood to respond positively to the legal process, as there are several probation violations within this defendant's most recent history. It is for those reasons that the state is going to be requesting a $500 surety for the possession of marijuana less than an ounce, $1,000 surety for each of the 3 willful obstruction charges, and a $500 surety for the certain acts on a bus, rail, or train prohibited, making a total of $4,000 surety with no further hindering or obstructive contact with any of the officers listed in these charges, and stay away from the incident location of the East Point MARTA station. One-day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Reeves is 34 years old, and Your Honor, he has been here in Georgia for all his life. He currently resides with his mother who's not working. Indeed, he is sole breadwinner for himself and two minor children who are 11 and 4. And he has a job as a warehouse manufacturer for temporary services. He's been doing that for the last 3 weeks. And he worked at Checkers as a cook prior to that 3 weeks of employment. He made about $10 per an hour, and he's actually qualified for our public defender's services because of his low income and dependence that he has. We would like to request for signature on bond since he does not have any financial means to make any bond at this point. Besides, he is wanted at Cumming, Georgia. So if he gets released to Cumming, Georgia, I think signature on bond is reasonable. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, at this time, the defendant is going to receive a $1,500 split bond. It will be five.
I'm so sorry.
Mr. Reeves, I don't want you to interrupt your right to remain silent.
I
If
know
you
what-
have, go ahead, very briefly. If you have a question, the best thing to do is to talk to your attorney, however.
Okay, those charges, the other case, that was out of Union City. I don't know how Fulton County got it, but that happened in Union City. And they threw those charges out. I was actually in prison dealing with them when they threw the charges out because
Okay, I don't want you to say too much. Please speak to Ms. Kim. She can help you. Defendant will receive a $1,500 split bond. He's gonna get a $500 signature bond through the jail for count 1, the possession. He's gonna get a $250 signature bond through the jail for one of the willful. The rest will be a $250 each split bond. Surety bond. So he should have to bond himself out for $750. And there will be $750 signature through the jail. He's to stay away from that East Point MARTA station, and he is to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and to have no further contact with the officers involved in this case. Is there anything further?
Your Honor, can we have a no further violent contact because we don't know, he does not know where the officers are gonna be working.
We'll say no further obstructive
Yes,
contact.
thank you, Your Honor.
All right, anything further?
Judge, for the certain acts, bus, rail station prohibited, was that also $250 good bond?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, I have a meeting that I was just called to. The state I would ask that I be excused. Ms. Wolf will be here if there are any issues that may come up. She is joining us from the DA's office and is here as an ASG with our office.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Falk. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. I believe that concludes Mr. Reeves' case. Ms. Kim, please give Mr. Reeves a call.
Yes,
Seems like he
Your Honor.
has some concerns.
Yes.
All right, best of luck to you, sir. Who do we have next?
Position 10, Ross.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Ross. Your case is 22 CR 008199A. In this case, you're charged with reckless conduct with the offense date of December the 8th. You understand your rights?
Yes, good morning. And yes, I understand my rights.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Ms. Harrison?
4 cycles, last arrest March of this year for failure to appear in Fulton County. Underlying charges: damage to property, 2nd degree, terroristic threats, and disorderly conduct. That is an open case, 19 SC 166056. Nothing further, Judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident did take place in the area of 2500 Center Street. The defendant did run from officers in that area. They had been doing a detail in that area, and they wanted to speak to the defendant. When he walked into the vehicle, they noticed a handgun sticking out of his pants, and apparently at that time, he took off running. And in running, he took that firearm out of his pants and threw it down on the ground. Officers notated that this was an area where families and children were around. He was eventually detained after running and hiding under a blanket. They were able to find him some ways away from where they had made initial contact after going around that building. We do have some concern here because officers did indicate that there are children and families in this area. And as Your Honor and the court well knows, firearms are very dangerous weapons, and we're just grateful that this could have been much worse if that firearm had been loaded and discharged or something of that nature. The defendant could have harmed himself or anybody else in the vicinity. So for this case, we're going to be requesting an increase to a $5,000 surety. This defendant have no alcohol, drugs, weapons, or firearms specifically, and make no other violations of Georgia law.
I'm sorry, Ms. Duncan, what's the preset bond?
It was 1,000.
It's 1,000. Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. White.
Actually, it is me, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kim.
Yes,
Go
no
ahead, Ms.
problem.
Kim. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ross is actually 24 years old, and he has been here in Georgia all his life. He's a single, and Your Honor, he does not have any employment at this point. He's been unemployed for about a month. And even before that, he worked at a Family Dollar for $12 per an hour. So he is actually qualified for public defender's service. And Your Honor, he currently also has to pay for other damages that he's continuously making a payment. And so with all those obligations, he has no financial means to make any payment, Your Honor, towards the bond. So even $1,000 is more like no bond for him. So we would like to request either signature on bond or maximum, keep the $1,000 good bond as is. It does not have to be increased. That's it, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, at this time, defendant will receive a $2,000 surety bond. He's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons as a condition. Is there anything further from the state of defense?
I just want to state that that firearm was in fact loaded. It had 16 rounds inside the 9mm.
Okay, thank you. Bond will remain at the 2,000 surety. Best of luck to you, sir. Who do we have next?
Position 15, Woods.
She said.
I'll explain it to you.
Your Honor, what were the other conditions for position 10?
No alcohol, drugs, or weapons. All right, Mr. Woods, your case number is 22 CR 0082044Y. In this case, you're charged with terroristic threats with the offense date of December the 8th. You understand your rights?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harrison. You're muted, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you. 20 Cycles, last arrest June of 2018 for probation violation in DeKalb County. The underlying charge was burglary in the first degree, and that was a conviction. He has a 2017 misdemeanor conviction for theft by shoplifting and two 2016 felony conviction for burglary in the second degree. Nothing further, Judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor, this incident did occur at 2900 Camp Creek Parkway, apartment 5. This incident, officers were called to the location in reference to a dispute between a male and a female. Dispatch at that time did advise officers that the caller was stating to them that the person in question was trying to enter the residence by using a brick. By the time officers arrived on scene, they had contact with the defendant and the victim in this case. The defendant continued to verbally threaten the victim in this case in front of officers by stating, and the victim in this case is Miss Monica Dawson, that's Monica, Monica. Dawson is Dawson. She advised that he is her living boyfriend and that he was drunk and he kept making threats towards her. He said in front of officers, "How long are you gonna hold that hoe? I'm finna tear that hoe up. Y'all can't protect her forever." And he continuously made these types of threats towards her while officers were trying to mediate the situation. Ms. Woods did state to officers at that time that he previously put his hands on her in the past when she had called the police. However, no arrests were made. She was given instructions about how to obtain a TPO. We did make contact. The victim does not want any further contact with this defendant because she says he has been violent with her in the past and that they share no children, and that she wants him to stay away from the residence and that she wanted the court to know she will be taking his belongings to his mother's house. Given this defendant's history and the offenses alleged and the concern about the risk of reoffending, as this defendant showed a clear regard for the presence of law enforcement at the time and continued to make such threats, we're requesting a $2,500 surety to stay away from the incident location, 1 day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law.
I'm sounding for Ms. Woods. Ms. Woods, if you're on this conference and wish to be heard. All right, hearing none. Please proceed, Ms. Kim.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Woods is actually 36 years old. He's Georgia native. He's a single. His family members are all here in Georgia, and he has been working at warehouse for about 4 months. However, since it is part-time, his income is not that high enough so that he's qualified for public defender's services. Your Honor, he does not have, I apologize, I got confused with another case. Oh, he has no objection to stay away. He has no objection to no further contact. He is completely fine with no one-time visit with a law enforcement officer if she's gonna bring all his stuff into his mother's house. That will be fine with him, and we would like to request for signature on bond. And yet, if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, we would like to request for maximum $1,000 good bond for this case. Thank you.
All right, at this time, defendant will receive a $1,500 surety bond. He's to have no contact with the alleged victim and stay away from the incident location. He is to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons as a condition. He can return one time with a member of law enforcement to get items, as I cannot direct the victim to bring his things to his mother's house.
No problem, Your Honor.
All right, is there anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Nothing further from the state.
All right, best of luck to you, Mr. Woods. Who do we have next?
This is position 1 add-on.
I'm sorry, what was the name? I don't think I printed the add-on.
Palamarini.
All right, give me one moment. Okay. All right, Mr. Palamarini, I'm opening up your case. Your case is 22 CR 0082055Y. In this case, you're charged with unlawful conduct during a 911 call by using vulgar, obscene language to intimidate with the offense date of December the 8th. Do you understand your rights?
I do understand my rights, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Harrison. You're muted, Ms. Harrison.
Sorry about that. 7 cycles with history in Georgia and New Jersey. Last arrest September of this year for simple battery, family violence. And that was in Alpharetta. That is an open case pending. Record indicates open case pending in Fulton County, 22 CR 006469Y. Simple battery, and I'm not going to sign the second charge, Judge. It's a first or second conviction. He has an additional open case for willful obstruction of law enforcement officers, public drunk, and again, the same charge, 22 CR 006470Y. He is not recommended for UJR because he's a multi-state offender, Judge, nothing further.
All right, thank you. Ms. Follett?
Your Honor, on December 8th, 2022, officers were dispatched to 2870 Webb Bridge Road in Alpharetta for the defendant who had called 911 on 3 occasions, back to back to back, screaming and ranting at the dispatchers. The dispatcher stated that the defendant called 911 in an intoxicated state, claiming that someone had stolen his cats while he was in jail. During the call, the defendant cursed at the dispatchers, demanding that they send an officer to come speak with him. The dispatcher concluded that what he was calling about was a civil matter. And at that time, the defendant then called 2 more times, demanding new officers be sent out to the location. His language was very obscene and vulgar to the dispatchers, calling them B words, stupid. I mean, pretty much everything. I'm not going to say all the words. I hope that they're in the warrant, Your Honor. When dispatchers would try to disengage with the defendant, he would berate them and demand that they stay on the phone with him, all while continuing to use vulgar language, and all these calls were recorded. Those 2 state court cases, Your Honor, that are pending, Your Honor, so graciously gave him a split bond on the 6470Y case. He was released on October 29th. Where he was to not have any more alcohol. And on the 6469Y case, Your Honor, also gave him a surety bond on that case, and he was released as well on October 29th, 2022. Now he's back again with an additional charge while out on bond only a month later. And so the state at this time would be asking for a $3,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. While out on bond, the state would argue that he does pose a risk of reoffending. Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Palmerini is actually 58 years old, and he has been going through a lot of difficult situations, including his medical condition right now. He does have to have a hip replacement surgery very soon. He has a lot of pain in the back and knees, so that kind of impacts how
Still muted?
he-
You please unmute me. I have every right to speak. Your Honor, I wasn't drinking that night, and this is connected to that time when I was.
You're on, Mr.
Sir.
I have a friend that did take the cats. She brought them up to Pennsylvania. I asked her, I told her I was gonna come and get them. And she,
Mr. Palmerini, you have a right to remain silent. I strongly recommend you to stay silent. This is not about the facts of the case. We are here just for bond.
if I'm getting tore up, I have a right to speak about it. I wasn't drinking that night. I was very mad. These cats are like my children to me. And all I wanted the officer was to make it a report, and he refused to do it. I wanted to like take the report from here where it happened and bring it up to a police station up there and have a police go to the house and demand that I have my cats returned to me.
Understood, sir, but still, don't say anything that can be used against you, okay? All right, I understand that. Go ahead, Ms. Kim.
Yes, Your Honor. He is 58 years old, and he has not been able to, he has been unemployed for about 2 years. So his financial situation is not that great to pay for the bond. We would like to request that his, if he does not get his signature on bond, we would like to keep $1,000 surety bond, just, as is, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, bond will remain as set at the $1,000 surety. He's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Is there anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, who do we have next?
Petition 12, Shiver.
Oh, this is a breakout case, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, Ms. Cheney, I think her Zoom got messed up, so if we could wait for her as well, and this is a breakout room case that we were requesting, Your Honor.
Okay. And we're waiting for who? I'm sorry.
We still have two additional cases. Position 3, Boosie.
I think those were waived. No, Boosie wasn't waived appearance.
Boosie.
Is there an announcement for position 3?
Yes, for position 3, it's gonna be a medical reset, and also position 13 waive their appearance, position 14 also waive their appearance.
And Your Honor, if I could address position number 3, I believe he was arrested on Sunday, December 4th. He's been on the SEA calendar every day this week as a medical reset. And so I just wanted to bring that to the court's attention and ask, the defense if they have been able to get a waiver or what's going on with that situation.
Your Honor, I was unable to speak with my client today because I understood when the jail called that he was not available. I did not know, I was not told it's a medical reset. I was just told that he was not available for me to speak with. But based on the warrant, I realized that he was arrested on the 4th.
All right.
And I don't know why he did not appear earlier.
I'm assuming medical reset as well. So we'll reset him one more time. Ms. McLeod, if you can make an attempt to at least get a waiver from him so that his case could be addressed on Monday.
And Your Honor, just for the record, we just want the record to reflect that it's being reset due to no fault of the state.
All right. So are we gonna, is everyone here so we can do position 13? Or no, we need to do the waived appearance cases?
I see her logging in right now. So Ms. Duncan will be handling the remainder of the cases.
Your Honor, my business is before the court today is concluded. May I be excused?
Yes, have a great weekend, Ms. McLeod, and do everything you can to get in contact with your client.
I will do that, Your Honor. I'll try to call
Hey,
the
Judge,
jail
I
now.
just found out real quick, Mr. Cloud, as far as your client, he's not
Yes.
responsive to any questions. He does not want to talk, so he's basically not cooperating. He doesn't want to be interviewed or at all. So that's the case with Mr. Bussey. Is that his name? Yeah, Mr. Bussey.
Mr. Bussey, yes.
Okay, well, I don't think we can waive his appearance without his consent, though. So we at least have to try. All right, Ms. McLeod, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good rest of your weekend.
You too, Your Honor.
All right, can I be placed in a breakout? Who needs to go into the breakout? I'm assuming all members of the state
Yes.
on the calendar and Ms. Kim.
And we have 2 new members of the state as well. They would like to join and observe.
Well, I did say all members of the state, so that's fine.
Okay, I don't know if they had themselves marked as ASG, so I just want to be sure.
Hey, if I could interrupt, I'd take this time to introduce myself, Your Honor.
Oh, good afternoon. Who's speaking?
This is Muhammad Abdullah. I'm a new Assistant Solicitor General with the state.
Welcome aboard, Ms. Abdullah. Good to see you. If Ms. Grace, if we could be put in that breakout, please. All ASG. If you would do me a favor, Ms. Abdullah, please put ASG in front of your name. It will help Ms. Grace put everyone who needs to go into the breakout. I think all other members of the state have that in front of their names. And Ms. Kim, you're going in alone, I'm assuming. Okay.
Unless Mr. White want to join.
I don't. Mr. White didn't turn on his camera, so I don't think Mr. White wants to come, but he is more than welcome.
Ms. Dillingham is also a member of the state.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I am working on changing my name to reflect ASG as well.
All right, thank you. That will help. Miss Champion, will you check on Miss Grace for us? Thank you.
Yes, Judge, she's doing it now.
She's coming. All right. Thank you.
Yes,
What's going on?
Miss Kim, please mute. It's one of those Fridays. All right, Ms. Harrison, can we have the history just for the purposes of the record, please, for position 12?
Yes,
Mr.
Judge. He also appeared in first appearance today under case 22 CP 214555. And he received a split bond, UJR level 3. He has no prior history.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harrison. All right, at this time, the defendant's gonna receive a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services. He is to have absolutely no contact with the alleged victim, initials KB. If he sees KB, he should turn around and walk in the other direction and must stay at least 1,000 yards away from alleged victim. Of course, have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and be engaged in high school classes. His mother is going to co-sign Ms. Harrison. Her name is Andrea Shivers.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, would Your Honor be willing to impose a curfew?
Is he have any type of part-time job, Ms.
Yes,
Kim?
he does. He works at Wendy's, Your Honor, until 2 a.m. sometimes.
All right, the curfew will apply unless he's at school or work.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Of 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. But he is permitted to go to work.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
I would just
Need
like
to be
to
in
say
courtroom too, Judge.
that,
Go ahead, very quickly, Ms. Duncan.
I'm sorry, that I would just like to say for the record that the breakout room that we attended was for the nature of jurisdiction and not for the nature of the charges.
Okay. Y'all can be excused in courtroom too. Have a great rest of your weekend. All right. Bye-bye. All right, let's do the waived appearance cases. We'll first take the case of Santori Solomon, 22 CR 0082018, which defendant is charged with simple battery family violence. Ms. Harrison, can I have that person's history for position 13, please?
15 cycles with history in Georgia and Ohio. Last arrest was June of 2019 for trafficking cocaine in Fulton County. He is currently on probation for that charge, 19 SC 168894. Sentenced February of 2020, 2 years confinement, 6 years probation. He was actually convicted on possession of cocaine with intent to distribute. Additional open probation for burglary in the first degree, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, 3 counts, possession of firearm by convicted felon, possession of firearm during the commission of a felony, and willful obstruction. Also on probation, sentenced June of 2017, 2 years confinement with 6 years probation. Nothing further to add.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harrison. All right, Ms. Duncan, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. In this incident, it did occur on January 10th, 2022 at 5285 Brittany Trail in South Fulton. The victim in this case is Miss Kelly Longino, that's Longino, Kelly, common spelling as the first name. It is alleged in this instance that the defendant and the victim are married, however, they are separated, and officers were contacted due to a dispute that they were having. And Miss Kelly indicated to officers that the defendant had become angry and slapped her in the face. She said that when he drinks, he does become violent. I wanted to make note for the court that we do have some concern about the risk of reoffending in this case. Ms. Kelly did let our victim advocate know that 2017 conviction for willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, aggravated assault, 3 counts, burglary, reckless conduct, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony was for, in fact, him shooting up her grandmother's home. So we do have some concern about prior difficulties between these parties. She indicated that she is fearful of the defendant and of course does want to press charges. We do also have concern here greatly about the intimidation factor of this particular witness victim. There are multiple jail calls since the defendant has been incarcerated to the victim in the case, indicating to her that she should not press charges and not show up to court. So for those reasons, Your Honor, given the prior difficulties between the parties, the fact that she is the current spouse of the defendant, we do have some concern about the risk of reoffense, and given the nature of the violence between the family in general, Your Honor, we do not think this is a good situation for either party, and we have extreme concerns about the safety of those involved. And given this defendant's history, the state is going to be requesting a $5,000 surety in this case. No further contact with the victim and no further contact with any of the children that they share in accordance with the victim's wishes. A 2-week anger management, a stay away from the incident location, as it is indicated that that is her residence, and that the defendant does not live there. And we're gonna ask for 2-week anger management, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law.
All right, thank you. I am gonna sound for the victim. I believe the last name was Longini. All right, hearing none, Ms. Kim.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Solomon is 43 years old, and he has been here in Georgia for about 25 years. And his parents are actually in Ohio, and his parents were officially diagnosed with a dementia. So he will be a main caregiver for them. Your Honor, his wife and my client, they are separated, as Ms. Duncan, ASG Duncan mentioned, that defendant does not reside in her place anymore. So there is no reason for any kind of intimidation anymore. They do not live together. We have no objection to stay away, no further contact, as long as he has a third party transfer for 3 minor children, 16, 15, 12. I believe that they can choose whoever they want to live with, since their age is old enough. My client is working as a maintenance job at Smith Construction, and he makes about $10. He's been working there for about 10 years. And since he is separated and he's working only for part-time, he also got out of the state prison March 2021. His income or saving is very limited. So he's qualified for public defender's service. So we will be continuously representing him. And it's not MH issue that he has a waiver of appearance. Indeed, he has his quarantined right now. We would like to request for a signature on bond, and yet, if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, we would like to request for maximum $1,000 surety bond for this case. That's it, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, at this time, defendant will receive a $2,000 surety bond. He's to have no contact with the alleged victim and stay away from the incident location, as well as the victim's address if that's not the same. He can arrange to see his children through a third party. He can arrange the third party transport, and he is to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Is there anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, best of luck to Mr. Solomon had he been here. All right, now we'll go to the case of Asa White, 22 CR 008202C, in which defendant is charged with simple battery with the offense date of November the 15th. Ms. Harrison, if we could have that defendant's history as well.
59 cycles. Last arrest, September of this year for criminal trespass and unlawful to remove baggage, cargo, etc. from bus rail. No disposition listed in that arrest. Record indicates an open case pending in Fulton County for theft by shoplifting and giving false information to law enforcement officers. Case number 22 SC 181523. Convictions 2019 and 15, theft by shoplifting 2014, simple assault 2013, theft by shoplifting and criminal trespass, and in 2012, obstruction and disorderly conduct. Nothing further to add.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Ms. Duncan, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. In my research, I also saw an open case for possession of cocaine that was 12 SC 113137. and I saw a 20 PF 00041 for theft by shoplifting. That was, it indicated it was a transferred case, but I didn't see any other case that was matching that incident date. So I would assume that that is still an open case pending picking up by the state. But that last disorderly conduct in 2018 was in fact on MARTA as well. And the incident that did occur on November 15th, 2022 at the Midtown MARTA station located at 41 10th Street Northeast in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of having pushed another MARTA passenger by the name of Susan Morrow. Susan is common spelling. Morrow is Morrow. After a verbal dispute on that train. Here we do have some concern about the risk of reoffense, as the defendant has a lengthy criminal history, several offenses relating to conduct on MARTA. We do have some concern about the flight risk. The defendant does have recent MTAs in the history, and we have concern about this defendant's likelihood to respond positively to the legal process, given the multiple probation violations and the continued criminal history. For these reasons, there is a current $2,000 surety bond that is preset. The state is going to be asking to have that surety bond increased to $3,000. Surety have no further contact with Susan Morrow. Stay away from all MARTA. 1 day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law.
All right, thank you, Ms. Duncan. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss White is actually 43 years old, and she is resident of Atlanta, Georgia for all her life. And she does not have any children. She's not married. Even though she has a parents and siblings, she has not had any contact with them for a while. And also she's not employed. She's been unemployed for about a year. And also her education, highest education that she received is a diploma from high school. Indeed, since she's residentially challenged, we'll be asking social worker services to have a visit to her so that way she can get some resources for housing. And also I'm going to ask for BHET to make sure that she needs any further evaluation. So we would like to request for $2,000 coupon to remain set. Thank you.
All right, as both the state and defense presented the 2,000 were, well, the state asked for an increase, so I will accept the defense's recommendation. It'll be a $2,000 surety bond. She is to have no contact with the alleged victim, last name Morrow, and she is to stay away from, was it all MARTA you were requesting, Ms. Duncan?
Yes, Your Honor. This is not her first offense on MARTA property.
Is there an active suspension?
I'm not aware. I just know that she was arrested in 2018 for disorderly conduct on MARTA.
Well, what we'll say is she should comply with any active MARTA suspensions and have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. And social worker services as well.
Yes.
All right, I believe that concludes the entire NCA calendar. Ms. Champion, will you please review the calendar for me?
Position number 1 is a $1,500 good bond reset SAP 1222. Position number 2 is a total of a $7,000 split bond reset SAP 1222. Position
7,000 on position 2?
Yes.
Thank you.
Position number 3 is going to be reset to the C calendar tomorrow, 1210 medical reset. Position number 4 is a $1,000 good bond reset SAP 1222. Position number 5 is a $7,000 sign-on bond through the jail reset further notice. Position number 6 is a $4,000 pretrial bond reset further notice. Position number 7 is a total of a $4,000 split bond reset SAP 1222. Position number 8 is a total of a $5,000 good bond reset SAP 1222. Position number 9 is a total of a $1,500 split bond reset SAP 1222. Position number 10 is a $2,000 good bond reset, SAP 1222. Position number 11 is a total of a $2,500 good bond reset, SAP 1222. Position number 12 is a $5,000 pre-trial bond reset, further notice. Position number 13 is a
I'm sorry, one moment. Okay, this person was not recommended, so it's per judge.
Okay. Position number 13 will be a $2,000 good bond reset, SAP 1222. Position number 14 will be a $2,000 good bond reset, SAP 1222. Position number 15 is a $1,500 good bond reset, SAP 1222. And the add-on position number 1 was a $1,000 good bond reset, SAP 1222. Any questions?
Yes, could you go over the nominations again for position 9?
The possession charge is a $500 SOB through the jail. The 1, 2, 3 willful willful obstruction charges is a $250. The first one is a SOB through the jail, $250. The last two are $250 good bond, and the certain acts is a $250 good bond.
Okay, could you also tell me the conditions for position 12? I just want to make sure I got them all.
No further contact with minor KB, curfew 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Defendant is permitted to go to work, must attend high school, co-signer is the mother. Andrea Shivers, no drugs, alcohols, weapons, or firearms.
Okay, thank you.
No
Any
problem.
further comments, changes, corrections, or questions? All right, hearing none, everyone take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll be in recess until tomorrow's SCA calendar. All right, bye-bye, everyone.
Judge.
Bye.